Deep Dive.
Hey, hi, hello, how you doing? My name is Joe, and I'm the solo developer of the Edge of Allegoria. Welcome back to another video in a series that goes in depth into the game's mechanics and offers some insights, tips, and tricks for how you can become an unstoppable force in the Edge of Allegoria. Now, since we started this series talking about the weapon and equipment mastery system, which is arguably the most important mechanic in the game, it's only fitting that we follow it up with another core feature that you're going to need to master if you really want to give the monsters of Allegoria a run for their money. They're a staple in RPGs everywhere, they're amazing when your enemies have them, and can be a real pain in the ass when you don't have the right healing items. That's right, they're status effects. Status effects are a huge part of combat in the Edge of Allegoria and are actually the foundation for the combo system that you're going to want to take advantage of in your adventures throughout the world. They're so important that one of your character's stats specifically contributes to your ability to inflict status effects on your opponent. The potency stat, which you can increase by mastering the different weapons you find on your adventure, is used to determine your share of a potency pool that both you and your opponent draw from to determine a small bonus to the chances you'll be able to inflict a status effect on one another. There's a whole bunch of math involved, and math is really boring. But basically, all you need to know is that if your potency stat is higher than your opponent's, you'll have an easier chance of inflicting status effects on your opponent, and they won't. On the other hand, if your potency stat is lower, your chances of inflicting a status effect will be lowered as well. But you won't ever have to worry about that because you'll be increasing your stats by mastering all the weapons you find, right? There are a total of 6 status effects in the Edge of Allegoria. 7 if you include not having a status effect. And each of them has a unique effect that can give you the upper hand in battle, or totally screw you over if you're not prepared. Stiffness decreases the agility and potency stats, which means that if you're feeling stiff, chances are you're not going to be attacking first. Also, your chances of inflicting a status effect on your opponent go down, so you won't be able to hit them back with a status effect combo as easily. Poison does what it does best and slowly chips away at your HP if left untreated, but thankfully you only take damage in battle, so you won't have to worry about passing out in the middle of the road while you're trying to get to your next dungeon. Drowsiness causes a drop in your special stats, meaning that your special attacks won't do as much damage and you'll be more vulnerable to special attacks from your enemies. There's also a slight reduction in your agility stats, so you may be just a little too slow to attack first if you're feeling sleepy. Burns are kind of the opposite of drowsiness because it affects your physical attack and defense instead of your special. And also, instead of a reduction in speed, there's a tiny little bit of chip damage that comes with each turn. The bleeding effect causes any subsequent damage taken to be increased by a small amount. So basically, it won't matter if your enemy hits you with a physical or a special attack. If you're bleeding, it's gonna hurt. And lastly, Madness actually increases all your stats, except your attack accuracy basically disappears. If you've ever witnessed someone in the depths of a mental break, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Of course, all these status effects can be healed with items. You've got ointments for stiffness, antidotes for poison, salves for burns, bandages for bleeding, orange slices for madness, and coffee for drowsiness. And there's even a weapon you can find that lets you transfer your status effects to your opponent. Status effects do wear off automatically after 5 turns in battle, so if you're patient, you can just wait them out. However, you will be vulnerable to enemy attacks that can really mess you up. So if your plan is to just hunker down and hope for the best, good luck. This brings us to what's probably the most fun part of this whole status effect thing: status effect combos. None of the attacks that can inflict status effects are guaranteed. The ones that do more damage will have a lower chance of inflicting the status effect on your opponent, and the ones with a higher chance will do less damage. Now, as I mentioned before, the potency stat can give you a little bit of a boost to your odds, but it's not really enough that you can reliably depend on it, especially near the beginning of the game when you also haven't necessarily found the most effective weapons yet. This is why there are attacks in the game that you can use to increase your opponent's susceptibility to each different status effect. Each time you hit an enemy with one of these attacks, it'll increase your odds to inflict the respective status effect by 20% on top of what the attack's chances are. Now, as an added bonus, if you use an attack with a chance of inflicting a status effect on the turn immediately after increasing susceptibility, those boosted chances will double, making it way easier to inflict a status. So say for example, you want to inflict the bleed status effect with an attack like Stealer's Wheel, which has a 20% chance to inflict the bleed. If you use Fearsome Blow to increase the susceptibility on the turn immediately before, that 20% plus the extra 20% increase will double to 80%, making it almost guaranteed to get that bleed on your opponent. Then what? Well, you can either take advantage of the stat changes that come with giving your enemy a status effect, or you can follow up with a combo finisher move that has a bonus effect depending on which status effect your opponent has. In the case of the bleed status effect, you can use a move like Hack to deal massive damage to your enemy. But each status effect has its own combo finisher, so you're going to want to experiment with the different weapons you collect to find the one that works best for you. Now keep in mind though, when you use the combo finisher attacks, your enemy will lose its status effect, so you'll be taking a little bit of a step backwards when you use them. But thankfully, enemy susceptibility to status effects won't disappear, so you're not completely back to square one having to start the whole process over again. Also, enemies do have access to these attacks too, so just, be careful. Anyways, that's all for this video. Make sure to wishlist the Edge of Allegoria on Steam and look out for the full release coming on December 4th. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment down below if there are any topics you'd like me to cover in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Cool.